Hi, it's Marie-Helene with Effective Placement. I haven't been around for a while, but today seemed like a good day to get back on to posting in relation to career search, interviews, resumes. And today I want to speak a bit about what a good resume does for you. I see a lot of candidate resumes for a lot of different positions, and I I find that most people don't have a good resume, not something that will catch a recruiter's attention or a hiring manager's attention, that's for sure. So when you're crafting your resume or when you're putting together a resume, you need to be mindful of where it is that you're applying for work. In other words, giving me a bunch of generic stuff about, oh, I have managed this or I've done that, a lot of quantifiable kinds of things at the beginning of a resume is not particularly useful because you're quantifying aspects but not putting them into a context. So the quantification is an important piece, and I would highlight that as being something that every resume should have. However, it does belong in more of a body of a resume. It should be allocated to the specific position that you held at the time. So if you want to get someone's attention, a recruiter's attention, or a hiring manager's attention when you're doing a resume or you're applying for a position, you should speak about, provide some highlights of your experience at the very beginning. Those can include a brief overview of your tech skills, when I say brief, I do mean brief. It shouldn't contain more than a couple of paragraphs of information. All right. Then you want to start to talk about your professional experience, and that's where the quantification of your experience is very helpful and useful. So if you were a marketing genius for company XYZ and your marketing efforts increased their sales potential by 20% over 6 months, and over a year that actually doubled to 40%, you want to put that in there. All right, because that's the kind of detail that a hiring manager or recruiter is looking for. And also, you don't want to be focusing too much on your credentials or your certifications at the beginning of a resume. Again, that's not what's necessary at that point. Yes, it is important to include your educational credentials and your certifications, but those should come at the end of the resume. In other words, you're not selling the fact that you have a degree or you're an engineer or you're an MBA or whatever it might be, or an engineer with an MBA or an MBA and you're going for your PhD. I mean, none of that is all important, but not before you talk about your experience. All right. So when you're doing your resume, if you're not focusing on making sure that the people that you're trying to reach will have a look at it. Remember, we all have a limited attention span right now. Things need to be repeated for everybody to sort of grasp them. I'm not that much different. I too need things to be repeated. So your resume is the place where you want to get really focused on this is a highlight of what I've accomplished, 2 paragraphs. These are the tech skills that I have included in those 2 paragraphs. This is my professional experience. I was a marketing guru at blah, blah, blah. I brought in 40% more new clients in a year because I did A, B, C, D. Okay? And I followed up with these potential clients and developed a relationship with them, etc. And then you want to talk about your previous employer and what you did for them and so on. Now, if you're a senior person and you've been working for a number of years, it really isn't necessary to go beyond the past 10 to 15 years of experience. I mean, your resume will indicate that you're a senior person. So going back to what you did in the 90s, really not necessary. What you did in 2000, probably not necessary either. Maybe 2005, but 2010 onwards is certainly of interest, okay? And you're not selling yourself short. You can always include a section that says previous highlights include or previous experience include. a couple of one-liners for a couple of key companies that you might want to highlight. So if you're doing all of that, your resume will certainly get a bit more attention than if you're throwing a bunch of stuff on paper, submitting it and going, I wonder why I didn't get an interview. Well, first of all, you're not selling who you are in terms of your credentials. You're selling who you are in terms of what you can bring to the table for a position. That's what will get you an interview, and you want that highlighted on your resume. So that should be, front and center, first page. Length of resume, well, I think that varies on your experience and what you're trying to accomplish and whose attention you're trying to get. I'm not a fan of a one-page resume. I think that 2 to 3 pages is a good thing, and I think you should be able to do it in 3 pages, and I think that's where you want to focus your attention on. So again, the first page is your highlight of your accomplishments, your most recent experience, and then so on and so forth. Your last page can be devoted to your educational credentials, your other certifications in terms of designations that you hold or other studies that you've completed. And that way you are promoting yourself before you start to promote the fact that you have a degree. The degree is the invitation. That's part of the dance card, if you will. The degree is the invitation to the party. Your background is what will get you a more personal attention and will quite likely get you a screening interview, if not a full interview. All right? So you want to pay attention to those. If you want to have more hints or more tips on how to move forward in relation to having your skill sets be featured and sought after and gaining an interview, you can contact me. The information's in the box below, and you can arrange to have a private appointment with me at a time that's mutually convenient. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope this was helpful. If you like this information, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to being in touch with you soon. Thank you. Bye for now.